All right, everybody. Hello and welcome. We have a bunch of people registered and only a few here, which is, nice intimate environment. But we're going to get rolling, and if people join us, great. And if not, we'll have us a good time together. Please feel free to use the chat box on the left to share anything that you'd like to share with me. You can share privately with me, or you can share with the whole group. Totally up to you. And you can also share, as you can see up there, on Facebook or on Twitter. Love to hear from all of you. Love to hear any feedback you have as we go along. Yeah. All right. Well, welcome, everybody. It's Thursday. I can't believe it. This week has just flown by for me. I wonder if it has for you. A little bit shocking sometimes. It's always Throwback Thursday on social media that reminds me. I'm like, right. I got to get old pictures out. I think that's so fun. I am Sarah Beth Jones, the NoBS Biz Coach. I'm based in Floyd, Virginia. My husband Rob and I moved to Floyd almost 6 years ago because we were seeking a more creative, authentic, less traditional life. And you Floydians out there, you know what I mean, and you know we found it. And the rest of you should come visit because it's a interesting, wild, wide open place. Fortunately, thanks to technology, I work with people all over. I love working with my Floydians, but we're a small little community, and part of what we do here is work outside of Floyd and try to bring the money on home and build our local economy, which is it's fun. It feels good. Coaching, my husband likes to say that I'm a 10-year overnight success in coaching because I've been an entrepreneur for a decade now. And I was always seeking, how do I make money in a way that feels good to me? How can I be supportive of people in a way that's sustainable for me? Early on, I tried working with kids in foster care, and it just ate me alive. And so it's been a journey to figure out how I can be helpful to people, which is very, very important to me. How can I help them achieve their best lives, but in a way that is sustainable for me so I can keep doing it and keep doing it? And coaching is where it is at for me. And what I love about coaching is that it's about helping people find their own wisdom, right? It's about helping them find their own blocks and uncover the strategies that work for each individual, because we all have a unique idea of success. Whether we've thought about it or not, we do. And we all have our unique blocks based on our own histories and our own baggage and our own brains. And we all need some strategies to overcome them so that our true awesomeness can shine. And on a very selfish level, I got to tell you, I like living in a world with shiny people. And so it serves me, too, on that level, that I like working with authentic people. I like living in a world where there's a lot of creativity and innovation, and people are bringing their unique stuff. It makes it more interesting, doesn't it? So if you look across the top, you're going to see that there's a button that says My Mood. And if you click on that button, you're going to see a thumbs up and a thumbs down and an OK. And so feel free to use those as we chat. And go ahead and use it now to let me know who ends 80% of their days feeling pretty satisfied with what you've gotten done. And I say 80 because I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule. I think it works in a million different ways and on a million different levels. And I believe that if things are going pretty well, about 80% of the time, that's darn near perfection, right? We need 20% of tumultuousness to motivate us to keep moving forward, right? Otherwise, it's when we're feeling comfy, cozy, and everything's going well, there's not a lot of impetus there to shake things up and get a fresh perspective. So we need a little bit of tumultuousness. It's kind of like when we have an argument with our spouse or something. That argument makes us go, okay, there's something here that we need to work on, right? And so if I have a really rotten day where I don't feel that forward momentum, I think, okay, maybe it's time for me to adjust my calendar a little bit, or maybe I need to rethink how I'm managing my tasks. So I'm seeing some thumbs up. That's really exciting to me. Go on, y'all. That's great. I'd love to hear what you're doing. Oh, look at all those wonderful thumbs up. You guys are ahead of the game. Ooh, this is exciting. Well, if you have ideas for me, all of you terribly productive people, you type them in, would you? Put them in Facebook, type them in the chat on the left-hand side, tweet them, whatever. So this is what my brain looks like. Most of the time. I'm an idea generator. Most entrepreneurs are, most creatives are, right? We're idea generators. We got a lot going on in our heads. And I went through a pretty serious amount of time when I just did not have a sense of forward momentum. And it was because of this monkey mind going on for me, right? There was just too much happening. And for a lot of us idea generators, we love our little idea babies, and we want to gather them close to us and keep them close. And we're going to talk about why we can't do that, why it leads to that sense of running in place. Now, last summer, I had a major turnaround in my life. And like I said, I've been pretty down about that sense of running in place. Last summer, two things changed it all for me. The first one was starting with my very first coach. I think it's really important that coaches are coached. I think it's a matter of integrity, and I believe in the process, and I love being coached, and I love what it does for me. And I discovered it all this past summer when I started with my first coach, a woman in Rhode named Kate Steinbecker, who specializes in coaching coaches. How great is that? Coaching new coaches even. And that level of accountability that Kate gave me, the way that she helped me see my strengths, the way she helped me see how I was holding myself back, the way she kicked me in the pants time and time and time and time again, really set me moving forward. It felt like wearing a jetpack. It really, really did, and it still does. I just can't believe the momentum, and that is why Rob called me a 10-year overnight success, because once I got into coaching, everything that I'd been working for, I realized I had been leading to this point, that I'd found what I should be doing, what I was made to do. The other thing that happened was that I started really implementing the strategies that I'm going to share today, and that had everything to do with Kate holding me accountable. I had a lot of strategies in place. I developed more after that, but I needed some help staying accountable and actually sticking to my processes, right? And so that's what I'm going to share today. A lot of the strategies that I've put in place and that have helped me go from that frustrating sense of running in place to a really wonderful sense of forward momentum. So some of the things that I've done, actually the keys to taming my monkey mind, have been, I needed a way to collect and prioritize my biggest goals and dreams. I needed to learn to use short, achievable daily to-do lists. I needed to work on only 3 projects at a time, right? Gathering up my little idea babies and wanting to do them all at once, not workable. I needed to develop a workable, mindful schedule, but not just a schedule framework that could be flexible, so that as my needs change, as I evaluated my productivity and how my days were going, and as my work changed, my schedule could stay flexible with me and continue to provide me with what I need. And I'm having to learn, and I'll be honest with y'all, this last one's the one that I'm still struggling with. I need to learn when not to be productive, right? It's easy to work all the time, especially when we're doing work we love, and I love my work. But it's really, really important that we mindfully take downtime. 1, so we don't burn out, so we can continue doing this work we love, right? And 2, because we're working for something. Generally, we're not working to work as much as we love our work. We're working because we want to support our families. We want time with them, right? We want time for our hobbies. We want to travel, whatever it is for you. Now, we're not going to do a whole lot with the first 2 today because you can get all of those from my NoBS Get Going guide. You're going to get, if you haven't downloaded it yet, you can find it on my website, sarahbethjones.com. Don't forget the H in Sarah. There's a Sarah without an H in Colorado who's gotten some of my mail. Sometimes kind of personal. I think that upset her. I got to talk to her sometime. But if you go to my website, you'll see a widget in the sidebar, and it says download the Get Going guide. And what you'll find in there are my strategies about gathering up these idea babies, and you'll find templates. You'll find a template of my daily to-do list, okay? And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because I'm committed to keeping this to an hour. I know you guys have busy days, and I so appreciate you taking your lunch break to spend with me today. I'm delighted that you're here. And so I want to roll forward. But before we roll forward, I want to share someone else's task list. Okay, so this is Terry Welch. And Terry works with Wine Shop at Home, which is a direct sales wine company. And what I love about this is that Terry took the template that I put in my NoBS Get Going guide, and she shaped it for herself. And I love sharing this because all of these ideas, and everything having to do with coaching, really, they're starting points, right? And then what has to happen is they need to be shaped for you, because I've developed all of this around what I need, right? So if you can tweak it to work for you, it's gonna work a whole lot better, right? Only you know what your business needs. Only you know what your life is like. Only you know how you need to allot your time and your energy. For some people, 1 task a day is going to be enough. I try to keep mine to 3, but I will admit I often sneak up to 5. So the other thing I love about Terry's and how she made it work for her was that I love how she put these solid tasks in every day, right? So she spends, before she even gets to her to-do list, she's spending some time focusing on gratitude. How wonderful is that? She spends some time focusing on her big picture goals and what it is she's working for. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more today, because in my mind, the only way productivity actually works is if we can reorient ourselves time and time again to our big picture goals, right? Getting stuff done is all well and good. It feels good to get stuff done. But it's only taking us toward our best life if we have a good picture of what that life is, if we're focused on our big picture goals. And because we're all juggling so much every day, it's very, very easy to lose sight of that and just respond to what's in front of us. And, little spoiler, that's a big part of what coaching does, too. We get that nice outside perspective from our coach. And I love that Terry has on her sheet encourage someone else. That is all Terry all the time, people. If y'all are in Christiansburg or Blacksburg or Floyd, let me know. I'll introduce you to Terry. Everybody should know Terry. She's a wonderful person, wonderful networker. And she is all about, just like I am and just like I'm sure all of you are, about the rising tide raises all boats, right? We're all in this together and we can all be successful together. And then she has these 3 lines for getting her tasks done. And her grandkids live with her, and sometimes the tasks are related to her grandkids, right? And often they're related to her business. I want to talk a little bit more in just a second about how we are one person, right? We wear a lot of hats. We're business people. We're families to people. We wear a lot of hats. We have a lot of roles, but we're one person, and we each get 24 hours a day. Okay? And so I like how she encompasses that. And then finally, Terry, she sells wine for a living, and so her final checkbox is to drink wine. And I love this because so often we get things done and we go, okay, got that done, what's next, right? Time to go cook dinner for the kids, right? Time to move on to another task. And I really believe that we have to stop and appreciate what we've gotten done in order to capture that sense of forward momentum, right? Otherwise, we breeze past our accomplishments and we look back and go, I got nothing done. And we got a lot done. We just didn't take time to appreciate it, right? So I just love that. I just love it. So historically, one of my favorite ways to self-sabotage, and we all have favorite ways of self-sabotaging, right? One of my favorite ways is to try to do everything at once. And so this is my representation of that. And each of those bubbles holds an idea or a project, right? And so I would have these little idea babies, and I would love them and hug them, and I would try to work on all of them at once. Well, I'm guessing you can't read any of those unless you have some mighty fine glasses on. I'm guessing you can't read any of those, right? And that's exactly what it feels like to try to do all of that at once. It feels like there's not enough time, not enough attention. We can't quite get to them. And that's exactly what's happening, right? When we're trying to divide our time and attention among so many different things, we don't have enough to give any of them, and then we're really not getting any of them done. And let me tell you, and maybe y'all are like this too, I'm a good little project starter. I am not a great project finisher. And this is exactly why. Because I start one project and I get excited about the shiny new one, and I start that project. And then there's a shinier, newer one, and I start that one, right? And on and on and on. And there I am, running in place in that hamster wheel. And it's maddening. And then I can't even enjoy my little idea babies because they're just languishing. Right? So frustrating. So what's the solution to this? Well, it's limiting focus, right? Bam. There are my 3 projects. I can read them. I can attend to them. I can see them. I can see what needs to happen, right? This is where we get to values and priorities, my friends. Okay? Now, once we know our projects, then we can take the task list template that you get on the NoBS Get Going Guide, and we can break these projects down into manageable bits, right? Because nobody can take the family to Japan. We can get passports. We can find a place to stay. We can decide what we're going to do there. We can find somebody to watch the cat here, right? We can do all of those little pieces, but nobody can just take the family to Japan. It's like writing a novel. Nobody can write a novel. Liz Long's on here. She's an indie author. Hi, Liz. I'm guessing not even Liz, who has written novels, many novels, can write a novel, but she can write chapters, and she can write paragraphs, and she can write sentences, and she can build those up until she has a novel, right? But that's the task list piece of it. But deciding which of these projects to focus on, Liz says, we hope. She's done it. Y'all should read her. And Terry Ledditz is on here, too. She's got a book coming out, too. Check these folks out. I love some indie authors. But the way that we go from the bazillion idea babies to the 3 that we're going to focus on first, we have to know our priorities. What do you really value? What do you really want to create with your time and your life? Right? So often we work on whatever is right in front of us, and we don't really think about that big picture. I was saying that earlier, right? We just react. And that's normal, right? That's really normal. We are so busy. We have so much going on, and it is really normal to get wrapped up in whatever's right in front of us. And so what I'm saying is we need to back up and say, when I am lying on my deathbed, it's gruesome, but we need to think about that sometimes. When I'm lying on my deathbed, what am I going to look back and see that's going to make me think, yes, that was a life well lived? On the micro level, what am I going to look back on in my day when I'm laying in bed about to fall asleep every night and look back on it and think, yes, that was a day well spent? Because ultimately that's my goal. My goal is to lay in bed at night and think, yeah, I spent this day well. Whether I went hiking, whether I blew off work and went hiking, or I got, 6 or 7 tasks done because I was so on it, whatever it was, I want to look back and think, yes, I spent that day intentionally, I spent it well, and I spent it working toward my best life. Right? That's how we're going to choose these tasks, or these projects, rather. Now, you may have noticed by now that only one of these 3 bubbles involves something having to do with work. Right? And I should clarify, the volunteer at the United Way one, that's not really an awesome example, because what I was thinking there, often we do volunteer work and it's like an hour a month or something like that, but I was imagining somebody who is like on the board of the United Way, right? And so they're doing 3 or 4 meetings a week and they're networking for the United Way and they're doing outreach, right? So it's a major commitment. And that's what I mean by a project, a major commitment, something that's going to take some time to do, That's going to eat a significant part of your week. So that I only put one thing specifically related to work on here, create a free promotional webinar, was absolutely intentional, right? Like I was saying earlier, we're one person, one holistic person. When I say that I'm a business coach, that doesn't mean that people only talk to me about business, right? That's just my way of narrowing down who I like to work with. I love to work with people on their businesses. I love the innovation that I see. I love the enthusiasm that I see. I love how outrageously unique people can be. And that's why I'm a business coach. But if a client comes to me and says, I've had a big argument with my spouse, then we're going to talk about that argument because we are one person with one pot of energy to work from and one 24-hour period each and every day. A big chunk of which I hope we're spending sleeping, right? That's important stuff. But if I have a big argument with Rob, my husband, who I adore and just had my 10th anniversary with, holy smokes, then that's going to get that energy, right, that I'm putting toward feeling uncomfortable about that and wanting to fix it and wanting to figure out what's going on. That's taking away energy from my ability to get my work done, right? And so in coaching, we're going to talk about that stuff. We're going to work through it so that we have the energy to put toward working, right? When we're plotting out our time, when we're planning our time and looking at our productivity strategies, we need to take those things into account. Now, I am not a parent, but I hear, I have it on good authority, that a kid in soccer is a kid who needs a lot of time, right? They're ferrying the kid back and forth. My goodness, the kid's doing soccer and dance lessons, forget about it. You're going to spend 10 hours in the car every week just going back and forth. That's a significant time commitment. And wishing to have that time for our work doesn't make it any different, right? And so we have to look at our lives holistically. We have to look at what we're creating holistically and divide up that 24 hours really mindfully, or better yet, that 16 hours, because in my dream world, I get 8 hours of sleep, and that you do too. And so if I have a huge volunteer commitment to the United Way and I've made that commitment because it's that important to me, then that's a project, and I need to allot an appropriate amount of time for it. If I want to take my family to Japan, I don't just want to go for a week. I want to spend a month there, right? I want to really immerse us in the culture, which means even more advanced planning, even more time getting it going, right? Then that's a project. It's going to take a significant amount of time if I want to pull it off. Having dreams is all well and good. I love dreaming, and I love to dream big, and I hope all of you are dreaming big because I know what potential you have, right? I know you're already awesome, and I know there's even more to be had. But if we don't make time for it, we don't mindfully make time for it, it's all for naught, right? It's just going to sit there as this amorphous thing, like, a cloud floating above us just teasing us, right? We have to carve out that time. So the way that I manage my 3 projects is I have some of those stick-em hooks on my wall. The ones you see them on TV and you just smush them onto the wall, and then when you're done with them, you pull down the little tab and they come right back off. It's kind of awesome because we live in a hand-built 1941 farmhouse with beadboard, and I got to tell you, it makes a gal's tummy hurt to put a nail into beadboard. It's so beautiful. So you put a little stick-em up there, right? And so I have 3 little stick-em hooks, and on each of my hook is a sheet that represents a project. And on these sheets, I keep up with when I started the project. I keep up with the deadline I'd like to see. Eventually, I keep up with when I actually finish the project to give me a better idea of how I am at estimating time, which I got to tell you, spoiler, I am not good at it. I think I can get way more done in any given hour than I generally can. It's a funny form of optimism. And so I like to track all of these things. And not only that, but I track what I've gotten done on my project. Right? I want to know what I've gotten done, both so I can see my progress and so that if I tackle a project like that in the future, I have a really good idea of what's coming up. Right? I have a better idea of the steps I'm going to need to take. And I also give myself a little helping hand on here, because when I am working on a project and I wrap it up for the day, I've gotten done what I'm going to get done for that day, I write a little note for the next step, do this and this and this. Right? Now, I'm guessing all of you have had this experience where you sit down to work on a long-term project and you have to spend a good 15, 20, 30 minutes reorienting yourself to the project you've been working on. Right? Where was I? What's the next step? I think I was going to do that. No, I already got that done. Oh, but I was going to do that. No, there's something else that has to happen first, right? By leaving myself a little note about what to do next, I get to skip that whole part. I sit down and I go, oh, up next I need to do blah, blah, blah. And I can just sit down and get to working. Right? It's pretty awesome. So why 3? If we did one project at a time, we would zip right through it, right? That would be awesome. I would love that. But the fact of the matter is, most projects we can't do all in one big zip, right? Usually there's too many moving parts. We need to hear back from somebody. We have to submit our passport application and wait for that to be returned. We need to put out feelers for who can house sit while we're in Japan, but then we have to wait for everybody to come back. And then once they come back, they reply to us, then we have to schedule times to talk to them. And then we have to wait for the time that we scheduled, right? So there tend to be gaps in projects. So the idea of 3 projects comes from sort of a juggling act. When one's on hold, there are 2 more queued up, ready to go. One trick to remember, though, is when one project comes down, that doesn't mean the next one gets to go up, right? We need to get all 3 of those babies done before we put the next 3 up. And the reason for this is that often we end up with our least favorite project. It's something that was really shiny when we started it. We can definitely see the purpose of it. It's important. For example, I've been redeveloping my website, sarahbethjones.com, for a little while now. And I understand the value of it. I don't even mind doing website work, right? It's kind of fun in its way, but it's not the top of my list. There are a lot of other shinier, sparklier projects. And if I put one of my newer, shinier projects up there before I'm done with my website, before that list comes down, then, the website's going to languish because I'm going to work on the shinier one, right? This is just a way that I support myself in my distraction, right? Or I support myself in resisting my natural method, my initial tendency is to get distracted by the shinier one. Right? Another thing that happens with these 3 projects is that underneath my little Stickum tabs, I have a file where I put the projects on deck, right? This is the shiniest, sparkliest, most appealing part of my office, are these projects that I get to work on coming up soon, right? And so when I look up at my little Stickum tags and I see the project related to my website and I think, oh, I just want that to be done, I look down at my shiny, sparkly projects to come, and that gives me the motivation to keep pushing. I go, you know what? If I spend another hour on that today, then I'm that much closer to my next shiny project, right? You know what? I bet I could carve out a few hours on Friday and just knock that all the way out. And then I get to dip into that pile and get those done. Once I get the other 2 done, too. But it's all about motivating myself. It's all about collecting those idea babies in a way that I don't feel that fear that I used to feel that I'm going to lose track of any of them. And that's what used to get me. I used to think, if I don't work on them all now, they're going to slip away from me and I will never bring them to life. So by having a place to collect them, like I said, you'll find, if you haven't downloaded it yet, you'll find a brain dump sheet in the NoBS Get Going Guide. So that's a place to collect your idea babies too, right? But we need to hold on to them. And a funny thing will happen, which is that when it's time to put the next 3 projects up and I look at that list, sometimes I find that the idea babies that were so shiny, sparkly, appealing when I wrote them down aren't really doing it for me anymore. And that's great, right? That period of time that they sat there helped me shake out the shininess of the idea from the reality of it. Which reminds me of a story that I'd like to share. Because often what I find are the ones where they lose their shine as they sit. What I often find about those is that though they were good ideas, we all have tons and tons and tons of good ideas, they weren't the right ideas for me and my personality. In fact, I was at a networking coffee this morning with a friend, and we were talking about co-work space. There's a wonderful co-work space in Roanoke called Colab. Go check it out if you have a chance. It's so fabulous. It's on Grandin. And I was daydreaming about having one here in Floyd, which I've daydreamed about for a while. And in fact, we have an old country store on our property that would be a really fun co-work space. And that is totally the wrong idea for my personality. I like to be footloose. I'm an introvert. I like to work alone. Right? I don't like ongoing projects like that. I like when I can switch it up and keep it interesting, keep moving, right? It's a great idea. It'd be so fun to have a co-work space in Floyd. Not my idea to work on, right? My sister has a similar story. My sister makes the most incredible cookies. She's a very health-conscious person. She's also a total sugar junkie. And so to kind of blend those two, she created a line of cookies that she called Hello Cookie Company. Or rather, she created recipes that included a lot of healthful ingredients, a lot of good fats and whole grains and all sorts of stuff, and you wouldn't even believe it tasting them. They're just so delicious. And she turned it into a business because everybody would eat her cookies and they go, oh, they're just so good. You should sell these, right? And enough people say, oh, they're so good. You should sell these. You go, yeah, that's a good idea. That sounds fun, right? And so she started Hello Cookie Company. And she worked her tush off on it for a couple of years. She developed beautiful packaging. She created her Facebook page and website. She made test batches and developed new recipes, and she promoted. And every passing week, she was more and more exhausted, right? It's a great, great idea. They are great cookies. And my sister is an extrovert, right? She needs the energy of other people. She's not only an extrovert, but she's a process-oriented extrovert. So her best jobs, the ones that have been most satisfying for her, are jobs where she has been in a strong team with a strong boss. And sorry, I had a scary beep in my phone for a second, really threw me off. But she likes a strong team, a strong boss, and an existing protocol that she can plug into and then figure out how to improve. She is really, really bright, and so she's great at figuring out best ways to do any given thing. But there she was starting a business where she was stuck alone in her house day after day, baking by herself, promoting by herself, right? No feedback, no structure, no support. And eventually that business went away. Now, could she have shaped that business that would have worked for her better? Maybe, right? Maybe if she had found the right business partner, maybe that would have worked. Maybe employees, I don't know. But again, it's a great idea, not the idea for her. This is just another way of saying, as we're choosing these projects, remember that holistic you. Remember those big picture goals. What is the life you're trying to create? How do you want to spend your days? What feels good to you? Okay? It's got to be sustainable for it to work. Okay? All right. I think that's all I needed to say about projects. Y'all have any questions about it? You have any thoughts about it? You know the chat is right there, and I'd love to hear from you. But that does bring me to the framework schedule. Okay? Like I said earlier, the framework schedule needs to be flexible, right? What this is about is thinking about the kinds of work we need to get done every day to move forward, the kinds of work we need to get done each week to feel really satisfied, and creating blocks of time that are big enough that we can get all of that done, right? The way it works in my life is that I like to use Outlook. I feel a little old school using Outlook. I feel like people use Gmail and the Google Calendar, but I love me some Outlook. We're a Microsoft family, I'll be honest. And so I use Outlook, and I'm color-coded very similarly to this, right? And what I like about it is that I get these blocks of time that I can adjust, right? So let's look at that orange block of time right through the middle. In my world, that represents email. That's an hour of email every day, right? We want to get back to people in a prompt manner. We want to get rolling. And I have this time set aside. But let's say that one of my clients calls me and she says, I really need a coaching session coming up. I've got this big block in front of me, and I really need to talk it out. And the only time I have available is 1 to 2, right? So let's say that block is in 1 to 2. Am I going to say to my client, sorry, can't talk to you then, got to work on my email? No, I'm probably not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug my client in there, and I'm just going to move that block of time. If I can move it later that day, fantastic, all the better. If I need to move it to the next day, then I'm going to make myself a 2-hour chunk on Tuesday, or the next day, whenever that is, right? So what's important is that I'm being aware of how much time I need to get these things done each week. And as my schedule shifts, right, I need to be a little bit flexible. Being too rigid is just crazy making. But I know that I just need to move that time. I need to shift it, right? So think about what the blocks are for you. What do you need to get done in any given week? Is that pink area networking for you? Is the purple area mindful family time? Right. When I was working on and let me say I'm always working on my framework schedule, because like I said earlier, our roles shift, right? The demands of my coaching work are different than the demands were when I was building websites and doing other kinds of consulting, right? And so as I shifted from one career to the next, I needed to shift the way I was allotting my time. And so this is something I come back to time and again. Where am I losing time? Where do I need to find time? Now, here is a painful and terrifying activity for all of you to try. I should think of a way to sell that. That doesn't sound like fun, and it's not. But it's really, really, really valuable. So take a day or two and make note of every minute you spend. Where are you spending your time? If you are anything like 99% of people, and I'm guessing you are, you're going to be surprised at where you're losing time, and you're going to be surprised at where you're spending time. And as painful as that process is to make those discoveries, it is so, so very valuable to find that, right? Now, a second ago, I said that if a client called me and they wanted to schedule during my email time, that I would move that email time. And I would, right? On the other hand, I want to make sure that you don't feel scared to say no to a client, to a prospect, to a friend, right? Especially as entrepreneurs, it's terrifying to say no. somebody wants to meet with us, we want to say, oh, yes, you just pick your time and I'll make it happen, right? Especially when we're starting. It's very, very tempting, right? We want to capture all that work. Unfortunately, what often happens when we do that is that we, by not minding our own boundaries, we don't leave ourselves enough time to get all the work done that we need to get done, right? So I am going to suggest to you that when we say no, when we say, boy, I'd really like to meet with you, I have 10 o'clock on Wednesday or 3 o'clock on Friday, can you do either of those, right? That what you're saying to people, first off, you're teaching them how to work with you. And you're saying to them, I value my time. I value your time. Let's find time that works together. And finally, you're saying, I'm a professional, and I'm a busy professional. And by gum, I'd love to work with you, but you got to get on the books, Mama, because I got stuff happening, right? Show your professionalism. Never be scared to show your professionalism, okay? Really, really important that you teach people that you're a professional. You teach people how to work with you. That doesn't mean being totally inflexible, and it sure doesn't mean being a jerk. But it does mean minding your own boundaries, deciding what time you can give to others, deciding what time you need for yourself, and sticking to that, you know? Now, one of the really, really important things about developing this framework schedule is being aware of your natural energy patterns and your actual life. Okay? One thing that I noticed, I guess it was last year as I was first developing this, was that I would sit my seat in front of my desk on Friday afternoons and I would just sit there and I'd surf and I'd read articles and I'd think about working, and it just wasn't happening. And after several months of that, I realized this is ridiculous. I could be having fun during this time, but I am sure not getting work done. Because by Friday afternoon, my little introverted self is pooped. I've spent all day, all week in meetings, and I had a great time in meetings. But as an introvert, a very, very gregarious introvert, mind you, but an introvert nonetheless, meeting with people, especially in the intense way that coaching requires, it takes a lot of energy from me. It's like a firecracker burst of energy. I get so pumped up working with people. I get so pumped up when I get to be in front of a group talking. I get so pumped up when I'm sitting one-on-one with a coaching client. And then I crash afterward. I've put a ton of energy into it, and I am exhausted. And so I have just crossed Friday afternoon off of my schedule. And I just don't schedule anything there anymore. I'll schedule a walk with a friend. I'll schedule a fun class. I'll schedule time in the hammock reading. But I don't schedule work because I know, one, I'm not going to get it done, and two, if I did get it done, it's going to be a poorer quality of work because I just don't have the energy to put into it. Now, often I do make up that time on Saturday mornings, and I got to tell you, that doesn't bother me one little bit. To me, that's a wonderfully fair trade, and I find working on Saturday mornings kind of relaxing. It probably goes back to my old admin days. I was an admin for a year between high school and college. I was so burned out on high school, I didn't want to go straight into college. And I worked as an admin, and every once in a while I'd go in on a Saturday, and I couldn't believe how much I would get done without the phone ringing, right? And it kind of made Saturday a sort of special work day in my mind. And so I do often work on Saturday mornings, and I love it. It feels great. I get a lot done. It's satisfying, and then I have even more fun in the rest of the weekend, right? That's the energy pattern that works for me. I also tend to schedule fewer meetings on Mondays because I like time to ease into my week. I like to start my week with a big pop of work by setting aside a bunch of at my desk getting stuff done time, right? That's my energy patterns. That's my actual life. What you need to do is think about your energy patterns. And again, noting every minute that you spend during a day, it's going to help you see that, right? If you see a drop-off, you see more surfing in the afternoon, you see more surfing in the morning, you see you're getting a ton done, between, dinner and bedtime or whatever, honor that about yourself. As much as you can. If you're working for other people, you're going to have to do some negotiating probably, but as much as you can, build your schedule around your natural energy patterns and use that very, very painful process of tracking all of your time to figure that out. Okay. The other thing I want to mention is, two more things on this framework schedule. One is to chunk time. There are some tasks that are just going to happen faster if we do them all at once. The biggies are email and phone calls, right? You guys know, you've had the experience, you switch from one task to another. You know, I'm switching tasks, so I'm going to take a minute, and I'm just going to check Facebook real quick, and I'm going to go get a glass of water, and I'm going to wander around for a minute, right? I'm going to stretch, right? Which is fine. That's a great way to switch tasks. Every once in a while, I like to have a little 5-minute dance party all by myself in my office. I did that right before the meeting today, actually. Whatever it does that keeps you pumped up for the day is a great thing to do. But the more we switch tasks, the more of those we have, the more time we lose, right? Doing that 3-4 times a day, that's great. That keeps us rolling forward. Doing it 10 or 12 times a day, we're really leaving not a whole lot of time for focused work, right? And so, again, I've got that hour set aside for email. If I can make all of my contacts happen during that time, I can just sit down and knock out my email. I'm going to get it done a whole lot faster. The same goes for phone calls. Now, I spend a lot of time on the phone these days. Y'all would not believe how much time I spend. I think I spend probably 35, 40 hours a month on the phone these days, which may not be much compared to y'all. But as an introvert who used to be very, very phone averse, wow, that really blew me away when I realized that. And sometimes still, even though I've gotten very used to it and very comfortable to working on the phone and talking on the phone, I do a lot of coaching remotely on the phone, right? I still sometimes have to steel myself when I'm just making regular, you know, hey, how you doing kinds of phone calls, right? And so if I steel myself once and then roll through all of my calls after that, I'm going to get them all done, right? I'm going to get them done more quickly, and I'm going to ride that wave of motivation. Okay? So consider what tasks you can chunk all together and knock out at once and save yourself some time that way. The final thing I want to mention, and y'all, this is the pot calling the kettle black because I am not awesome at this, but I'm working on it, right? We're all works in progress. If we were polished and perfect, there'd be nothing left to do. And boy, that would be a boring life. So one of the things that I'm working on is scheduling an end to my day. I can't begin to tell you how often people tell me that they were up until 2 getting some work done because they were hanging out with the kids in the evening and they had meetings during the day and on and on and on. And that happens, right? Sometimes we do have to stay up late working because we're just up on deadline and we need to get it done and life's got in the way during the day. But I have to tell you, a lot of times that happens because we have given ourselves the message somewhere deep in the back of our brains that we can do that it is acceptable to stay up until 2 in the morning working. Right? This is probably the only place in life where I think a little scarcity is good. I'm all about abundance mentality, right? There's plenty out there for all of us. But a little bit of scarcity in scheduling is a good thing. It helps us focus. If I say I have 90 minutes to get this project done, then I'm going to focus on getting that project done in 90 minutes. But if I have that little voice in the back of my head that says, I'd like to get it done in 90 minutes, but you know, if I have to stay up late tonight working on it, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to be less focused, right? I'm not going to get it done. I'm going to end up staying late, right? Work late if you have to. Don't set yourself up for it. Instead, give yourself a nice end of day, right? I like to start my days with reading something inspirational. In fact, we have Sharon on the line today. Hey, Sharon! And she turned me on to a wonderful woman named Charlotte Joko Beck. I'm reading her book Every Day Zen in the mornings now. And then I meditate for a few minutes. And the end of the day that I'm working on to sort of ritualize it, to get it set in stone, and to end my days on as lovely a note as I start them, I'd like to kind of repeat the ritual in the end of the day. Read a little something that inspires me, meditate for a minute. Think about what gets your day started well, and think about what would end them well, and then give yourself a hard deadline, okay? We have to make time for what it is we're working for. I know I've said that before, but I think it's worth repeating. If you're working for your family, if you're working for your vacation time, if you're working for your downtime, if you're working for your hiking time, whatever it is, make sure you're leaving time for it. And one of the ways that we do that is giving ourselves an end time to our work day. Okay? As a super quick little side note, I like to use timers. Consider using timers. When you find yourself feeling really spacey, set yourself a timer for 15 minutes. We can all focus for 15 minutes. If you find yourself stuck on a task that you just find odious, set yourself a timer for 15 minutes. What I find when I do that is that often a task that I've been dreading for 3 days, I can actually get done in 15 minutes. Or I get so much done in 15 minutes that I have all the motivation I need to finish it out. Okay? It's one of my favorite little tools. I keep a cheap little egg timer on my desk. Terry Welch, who I showed you the picture of earlier, she came up, again, she's so innovative, I love this one. She came up with a wonderful use for an egg timer. Now, I'm guessing there's some parents with us today, and like I said, Terry's raising her grandkids, and because she sells wine, right, it's direct to consumer, she has to make phone calls in the evening. It's how she's going to catch her client. But of course, you know, when you're on the phone, that's exactly when kids want to talk to you. They could ignore you all day, but as soon as you're on the phone, they want to talk to you. And so Terry did something really, really innovative. She decided she needed a half hour to make her phone calls 2 or 3 times a week. And now what she does is she gives the kids the timer. They take turns. They're elementary school aged. And they take turns being in charge of the timer. Right? And it's their job to let her know when the timer goes off and her half hour is up. And they know, one, that she's working during that half hour. They know exactly how much longer she has because they have the timer. And they have this wonderful sense of being a part of her success. How fabulous is that? Now it's not grandma's going off to work without us. Now it's we're working together. We're building something together. I'm helping grandma achieve this. Right? One time really early on, her grandson could hear her talking, you know, through the wall. And so he reset the timer after it went off. He reset the timer for 10 more minutes. And he told her he felt like she deserved it. She was doing good work. I just love that. Again, it's about taking these ideas and shaping them for your life and your challenges, right? All right, friends, we're 15 minutes from the top of the hour, which brings me to a very important part of all of this, which is when not to be productive, right? This is related to scheduling an end of the day, but a little more specific, okay? And you're going to have to excuse me because the first one is my soapbox. I don't like to get on the soapbox too much, but this one I get on the soapbox for. Please, oh please, drive time does not have to be productive time. In fact, I would argue it should not be productive time. And I got to tell you, for a very long time, I would always get in the car and think, okay, who should I call? I've got this downtime. I should use this for a phone call. And it was a way of tricking myself into making phone calls, too, because like I said earlier, I had to train myself to be comfortable on the phone. And then one day I thought, one, this isn't safe. You know, I wasn't emailing, I wasn't texting, but this isn't safe. It isn't as safe as it could be. And I thought, but what really got to me, what really allowed me to let that go, like I said to myself, I don't have to be productive all the time. I can take this time in the car and use it to think, to develop my little idea babies, to sing along really, really loudly and obnoxiously to music. Right? I love to do that. I pretend like there are no windows, and I just roll with it. I'll dance in the car. I don't care. Please, oh please, don't be productive while you're driving. There's a really fabulous campaign going on because it's a hard habit to break, right? Our phones make a noise, and we want to pick them up. It's just how it is, and it's hard to get in the habit of turning off the sounds, and it's definitely hard to ignore the sounds. And so a fellow came up with, I think he calls it the Red Nail Project. And what he did was he painted his right thumbnail bright red because he would notice that just subconsciously he would grab for his phone all the time. And so he would see the red thumbnail and he would go, oh, right, and he'd put the phone back down. So I really encourage you to consider something like that if you're a habitual phone in the car user. And as a nice side note, when somebody sees that you have one red nail, then you can have a conversation about why. So I'm stepping off my soapbox now. And on to when you're spending time with your family. Again, I'm notorious, Rob and I both, we have our smartphones and we're sitting on the couch and we're both puttering on our smartphones. And I got to tell you, that's not time together, right? It really isn't. If you're working for your family, if you're working so hard for them, take the time with them. Really be with them, okay? Even if you're just watching a TV show together, watch it together, right? Play a game together, do something. But take some time off of productivity and spend with those most important people. When you're in a meeting with somebody else, I used to have a client when I was consulting. I had this client, I love this woman, and she would answer the phone all the time when we were in meetings. You know, she was paying me. I was working for her, and I thought, well, that's how she wants to spend our time together. That's her business. But, you know, I wondered, you know, so finally one day I said to her, you know, just out of curiosity, do you answer the phone when you're with your own client? And she said to me, I answer my phone when I'm with you. It was just, you know, she heard a noise and she responded to it. She wasn't thinking about it, right? It's so easy to do. She's a lovely, wonderful person, right? It is so easy to just respond. We're trained to be responsive. We're trained to be on all the time these days. And it takes a lot of mindful effort to tune out and turn off sometimes. So when you're in a meeting with somebody else, be with that person, right? And finally, when your body and or mind are telling you to unplug. Our bodies are so deviously clever when it comes to making us stop, right? If we push past that point of comfort, if we push past that point of our body saying, hey, you really need to take it easy now, we're going to get a cold or the flu or something worse, right? We're going to throw our back out and be stuck on the floor for 3 months like a friend of mine was recently, right? Listen to your body and mind. And if it's saying, look, you got to go take a nap, I can't do this anymore, then go take a nap. It doesn't have to be for 2 hours, right? It could be 15 minutes. But listen to your body because, again, all of this is about sustainability, right? If we want to create the lives that we're dreaming of, we want to bring out our authentic selves, we need to think about how to be sustainable. We have to take it easy. We have to take these steps to take care of ourselves and move forward. You guys know what I mean. I'm sure you have other ideas of when not to be productive, and honor those, my friends. Whenever it is, honor those. If you're going to go for a beautiful hike in the woods, clearly I need to go for a hike. I keep talking about it. I'm going to do that later. But if you need to go for a hike in the woods, the phone doesn't need to go. Or maybe it does because it's got a camera on it. But, you know, the sounds that don't need to be on. Whatever it is, give yourself that time. Right? All right. That's my spiel. But you know that a free webinar comes with a pitch, and I've only left a few minutes for it, and that was intentional. I'm not gonna sell you all day, but I did want to let you know a couple of things I have going on. The first is my next 6-week business coaching class is coming up. I call it a coaching class because it is a class. I bring content. Everybody will be. I bring the agenda. I do all of that stuff. But it's very, very collaborative. So each of these 6-week classes are totally a product of the people who sign up and join them. Right? This one is called Have Your Authentic Life and Eat Well Too. I just finished my first round of this, so the second group gets the even more polished version. The original folks knew they were in a beta run, but now we have the more polished version. Now I understand better how to make it more helpful to people. Now, a little spoiler, this is not about food, not about eating. What it's about is what we're talking about today, but expanded out. Okay, so it's about really getting clear on what our best life looks like. Getting really, really clear on what it is holding us back from achieving that. Okay? And then it's a lot of strategies on how to move forward. So we're going to talk about a lot of the same productivity stuff, but into greater detail, right? And with more support. In this group, I assign people buddies, so we have accountability happening. We have a secret Facebook group so that we can continue the learning and exploration. We have homework, which I call actions because that sounds less scary than homework. But we have actions that build on the lessons and help us move forward. Okay? And that's only $177, which is $29.50 a week, less than $30 a week, and that's an investment in your best life. That's an investment in that's going to create that best life, right? Which isn't much of an investment, I got to tell you. That's not a whole lot to spend to get a nice, swift kick in the pants that moves you right on down the path toward the life that's going to give you the most pleasure and joy, right? I want that for all of you. And selfishly, I want that because I love being around all y'all when you're being your super authentic, awesome selves. I want to see more of it. If you register today, I will give you 3 laser coaching sessions for free during that 6-week period. A laser coaching session tends to be 15 to 30 minutes, right? My usual coaching sessions are an hour long, and that gives us time to do a lot of exploring and rambling and touching on a lot of different topics. In a laser coaching session, we're going to hit on 1 or 2 topics, and we're going to get to the bone really quickly, right? We're going to get right down to the meat of the matter. They are so exciting. Let me tell you, I love my regular coaching sessions. I have so much fun in them. It amazes me how quickly an hour can go by. But these laser coaching sessions, they are exciting. You know, we just get right down into it. You can find some more information about this group on my website. And in fact, when I close the webinar in just a few minutes, it's going to redirect you to the page with more information. So if you're interested, please stay on the line, and I'll redirect you over there and you can get some more info. Okay? The next thing is absolutely 100% free, which is a free sample business coaching session with me. Most coaches offer a free sample session. It's really important that we do because coaching is an intimate relationship, and it is important for the coaching to work its best that the match is good, right? I'm not the right coach for everybody, and I'm totally comfortable with that. It's important because growth can be very scary. It can be very uncomfortable, right? And so it's important that the coaching environment feels very, very safe, and that the coach feels like someone you can have that level of intimacy with, that you can share that much with. And so the free coaching sample session, it's a time to feel that out. It's a time to really experience what coaching is firsthand. I can tell you about it all day, but that's not going to be as informative as spending an hour with me being coached, right? It's a time for you to feel out whether I am the right coach for you, or whether it's, be a good idea to talk to some other coaches. And if it is, I can introduce you to other coaches, and I'm delighted to do that. And it's also a time for me to feel out whether I think I'm the right coach for you. I had a sample session a few months ago with a fella I adore. At a lot of levels, I would love to work with this man. But we got to the end of our sample session. We had so much fun. We got to the end of the sample session. I said, okay, what are you really looking for? What do you want most out of a coach? And he said, I want somebody who will look at my profit and loss statements with me and help me make decisions based on those numbers. And I said, I am not your gal. Numbers, they don't work that great for me, right? I can help people in a whole lot of ways, but that's not my strong suit. And it would have been out of integrity for me to tell him I could do that with him, and it wouldn't provide him with the coaching experience I want him to have, right? And so I helped him find somebody else. And that was totally okay, and we still stay connected, and we still get together now and then, and it's great. He's a fantastic human being. But it's got to be the right fit, okay? And so I say all of that because I want you to understand that doing a sample session with me, there's going to be no sales, there's going to be no pressure. I just want to get that time with you, right? It's fun to connect for no other reason than it's just fun to connect, right? That's it, my friends. That's my spiel today. Thank you so much for coming out. Please do connect with me on social media. Let me know how it's going. Let me know what your takeaways were from today. Let me know what you're taking into your life. And if you do what Terry did and make your own forms and shape this for yourself, I want to see those too. I find that so inspiring. So go out, be your authentic, awesome self, create the life that's going to bring you the most satisfaction, and trust that that's exactly what has to happen to benefit us all, right? To get that money in that you need to create that life that you want and to share with everybody those best parts of yourself. Okay. Have a great day, everybody. I hope to talk to all of y'all very, very soon. Goodbye.